you for your presentation. This time, any members of council have any questions? Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief Story. I have a series of questions. I think that the last slide you presented, 55, you indicate that this is not creating a new crime or criminalizing homelessness. Now, if someone is to pay a fine and that person is homeless and that fine isn't paid, what happens to that person?
Well, through municipal court, the judge has discretion on what fines are imposed for any crime, any petty misdemeanor in municipal court. Okay. So he also has discretion, or they have discretion, whether or not they issue a bench warrant or they issue another summons. So ultimately, that discretion falls on the judge.
So what if a bench warrant is issued? What happens to that person if that person is found?
Then they are arrested on the bench warrant.
They're arrested and
brought before the judge.
And they're arrested, and then what happens after they're arrested?
That's a good point. And Mayor, Councilor Flores, Sir Douglas, our acting city attorney, for a failure to pay,
yes,
the first thing they get is a summons and a notice to appear in court before a warrant is issued. So
okay.
A failure to appear is treated slightly differently versus a failure to pay. Well,
failure to appear and failure to pay, what happens? Are they incarcerated after that? If they're truant, if there's a warrant out for their arrest, what happens if they are found at that point?
If they're found with any warrant for their arrest, the warrant is served, they're brought before the judge, and the judge determines whether they're released or not, which generally speaking, they are released.
Well, generally speaking, but what is the possibility if that person is not released at that point? What happens to that person?
As opposed to any other crime, Councilor?
No, no, specific to this.
This would be treated as any other petty misdemeanor under the municipal code. So okay. Whether it was a shoplifting or this type of theft, it would be essentially treated the same, but the discretion is the judge's.
So what if someone has racked up a bunch of fines and they're not paid? What happens at that point? I mean, the person is a, quote, repeat offender, unquote. What happens to that person?
Well, the goal is to get them engaged with the court. I'm sorry, Mayor, Councilor Flores, the goal is to get them engaged with the court. As long as they're engaged with the court works with them. And that could be all kinds of things. Again, community service in lieu, Judge Flosa is an advocate of that. So as long as they are appearing, he can take all the fines and make it into community service or treatment. The goal is obviously not to try to get someone who doesn't have anything to pay the court. The goal is to try to address the crime itself and hopefully get them the treatment that they need.
Chief Story, is there any other municipality, is there a municipality that you know of that has been successful specifically with what you're proposing? Did you find any other municipalities that have this ordinance?
There's many municipalities, especially in California, that have shopping cart ordinances, and they all look slightly different. Some are more effective than others. Some are not effective at all. We try to model this one after the ones that are more effective.
Is there any chance for any possibility for incarceration?
The only time there would be incarceration is under two circumstances. One, if there's another crime committed that warrants a physical arrest, which is an important point I didn't mention. In Las Cruces or in New Mexico in general, for nonviolent misdemeanors, there are not physical arrests. It's either a criminal citation or a summons. So this, like all other nonviolent misdemeanors, the person is not going to jail unless they commit some other crime that is a physical arrest, like they batter the officer or they batter somebody else in the commission of the solicitation or the shopping cart violation, or if they fail to appear. If they fail to appear,
They face the possibility of being incarcerated.
Yes.
And how would that person, that homeless person, receive notice of to appear?
Generally, they are sent to 999 West Amador, the Community of Hope campus is where most people get their mail.
They have where do they receive their mail?
999 West Amador, the Community of Hope.
But that's a presumption, isn't it? I mean, I don't think every homeless person goes to that 999 Amador.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, that's an option for anybody to receive their mail there. But ultimately, these issues you're describing are issues for any crime, including the hundreds that the person I exhibited earlier commits, who's also homeless. So those issues we have to deal with, whether it's shoplifting, battery, criminal damage to property, or any other crime, same issues.
My concern, Chief, is that, there's that Supreme Court case right now. Well, God knows when it's going to be heard, because they move slower than molasses. But the Johnson versus Grants Pass in Oregon. And that one is going to look at the criminalization and look into whether there's a violation of the cruel and unusual punishment part of the Constitution. And cruel being, that's going to be up to the justices to decide what constitutes cruel. But from where I'm sitting right now looking at this, my heart goes out to the homeless, and there, but for the grace of God go I. You never know. You just never know. And I find it a bit harsh, because I think, and you did touch on mental competency, but somehow I find it very difficult to accept. It's not to say that there's a problem. It doesn't, I recognize there's a problem. I'm not sure this is the solution. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor.